What if I told you the most important tool in your camera bag wasn't your camera? Now, you might be looking at me funny, but I've acquired a new tool in my bag because light is what makes or breaks the shot. Now, this here is the Lumecube RGB Tube Light Mini, and I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna show you all the cool features of this light and why I think this is probably one of the most important tools in my camera bag today. And we're gonna go ahead and do an in-depth review of this light stick. Let's get right into it. So as I said before, this is the Lumecube RGB Tube Light Mini, and it is about 12 inches, weighs just under a pound, and this thing is pretty darn powerful. I currently have this on 2%. We have a window light back behind me providing our fill light or our kind of background rim light. And if I just turn this up to, let's say 30% and put this at about arm's distance, and this window here is just a little over arm's distance, we have just about the same light as this large window light right here in my studio as this nice tube light. So the great thing about this is the amount of power that I can get in such a small package. You can just see this thing glow on camera, and obviously it's blasting me out like a nuclear bomb for how bright this is, but this is a fantastic, powerful little light. So let's go ahead, let's talk about the specs of this Tube Light Mini. So this tube light has multiple different modes, and you can see your modes on the back here on this little LED screen. And this is great because you can see your mode, your battery life, if you're connected to Bluetooth, your color temperature, any of your little settings that you need to adjust, you can see right here in real time on the back on this little LCD screen. No more guessing what mode you're in. If you're on the highest brightness or the lowest brightness, everything is right here, and that is fantastic. That is such an improvement over so many tube lights that are on the market right now. That's why I dig this little Lumecube. So this has a color temperature range of 2,700 Kelvin up to 7,500 K. We are currently in CCT mode, or color correlated temperature mode, and that's where I can adjust my brightness, and I can go down and I can adjust my color temperature. So you can see a nice warm 2,700 Kelvin, and then I can go towards a more blue 7,500 Kelvin. So inside this tube light, we have 124 little smaller LED lights producing 960 lumens of light. And this tube light has a CRI rating of over 96. Now, if we take a look at some of the other modes that this light has built in, we are currently again in CCT. We can also go to HSL, which is our hue, saturation, and luminance, or intensity of how bright this light is. So we can go ahead, we can turn up the brightness of this a little bit. We can see we just popped into our HSL mode. We have the option of changing our brightness, so we can make this super ridiculously nuclear bright. Again, if I were to point this behind me, point this at my wall back here, just absolutely light up my studio. Use this as a glowing alien invasion looking light back here. Turn that brightness down. I can go ahead, I can adjust the hue. There are 16 million different color combinations you can do with this, and it's so awesome just at the flick of a button having these nice smooth color transitions. But again, right now we are at 1% brightness, and imagine just a little portrait shoot adding just a little kicker, just a little hair light, little accent light, or even using this as your key light if I go ahead and I block out my main color LED panel here. So again, just a lot of power and a lot of versatility in a tiny package. At 50% power, I can get about 3 hours of light out of this tube light, and at 100% power, I can get about an hour, hour and a half worth of light. And there's almost no reason I would have this at 100%. It is so darn bright. I typically have this in the background, and I'll show you guys an example here. This is the great thing about having wireless microphones. I can walk out of focus in the background and just use, a little touch of light to kind of light up my set. This is kind of how I'm thinking as I'm setting up YouTube shots. How can I have just a little bit of a kicker light Maybe I want to light up this Les Paul guitar over here. Maybe I want to throw a touch of light under this Fender over here. Just a little bit of an accent light. Maybe I can hide this light behind the neck of a guitar or behind the body of a guitar and just kind of maybe slide it down here. But these are the little things you need to think about as a photographer or cinematographer. Just little bits of light to accent certain parts of your scene to get your audience to pay attention to different parts of your scene or potentially ignore different parts of your scene. We have kind of a killer red on right now. Let's go ahead and let's change this to a different color. I really like a nice blue, a nice green. That's nice and cool. I love the feel of that. You'll notice a blue kicker light in a lot of my videos. And you may or may not have noticed this has actually been the key light or the kicker light in a lot of my YouTube videos in the last month or two. It's kind of been sitting off to the side here, providing just a touch of rim light or hair light in all of my YouTube videos if you look back over the last month or two. So some other features that I love about this light, you can see there is a 1/4-20 adapter right here. And we'll take off this handy dandy little aluminum tripod that it comes with. We'll talk about that later. And there is another 1/4-20 mount on this end. So we have two of those mounts. Additionally, you'll notice here that we have this hexagonal pattern on the end. And hopefully you can see that pretty well. That's because these tube lights are tubes and they like to roll. If you have them on a hill, they will start to roll and cover up the light or mess up the shot or roll down a long parking garage. And yeah, it can turn into a mess very quickly. So this hexagonal flat sides on here keep the light from rolling. Additionally, we have magnets in here. So I can just go ahead, I can stick this to tripod legs, I can stick it to a wall, a ceiling, a refrigerator, a door, just about anything to get those run and gun shots that are very difficult to get with larger light sources. So magnets are awesome. 1/4-20s to throw on a small tripod like the awesome one that Lumecube gives us here. I can use this as my little light on a stick that some of you may know from some of my portrait lighting tutorials. Just an awesome feature. I can set this light down. I can vlog with this. I can use this as a webcam, webcast, live streaming light. Just so many options with this Tube Light Mini. The Tube Light Mini is also Bluetooth controlled. I showed you this little Bluetooth symbol down here. I can connect this to my phone. I can set this up in an unreachable area, and I can have control of this light without having to constantly adjust it over and over again. Maybe the scene calls for something a little darker and moodier. We want to get a little more ominous, and we want a nice, deep, maybe a purple, a red. There we go. That's a nice horror film look right there, kind of off to the side of our main character, kind of a creepy red light. So let's go ahead, let's shut this main light off so we can really play with this. Yeah, so let's say the light is somewhere inaccessible and we don't want to keep taking it down and flipping it over and playing with the settings. I can, via Bluetooth, do all of this on the Lumecube app on my phone, which is a huge time saver. Again, if you're doing run and gun cinematography or photography and you don't have all the time in the world, you're trying to bounce between locations quickly, for example, 48-hour film festivals, there's so much work that you have to do in such a short period of time that it is great when you can do things quickly, on the fly, in that run and gun style, which a lot of you know me for. So just so many options, and included in those options are, we went over the HSL mode, we went over the CCT mode. There are also some really cool looking effects built into this light. So we have our kind of typical effects that are here. For example, we have lightning, we have loops. So there's a nice color loop. So it will smoothly go through blue, indigo, slowly changing to a violet and a red. This is kind of cool. Let's say you're a gamer on YouTube or Twitch. You can just have this as a cool kicker in the background, not really distracting, but a nice little accent just to give your scene something additional and interesting. I can also speed up all of these effects. Here's a TV effect that I actually really like. again, for cinematography and motion picture, this is great. I can just kind of throw this in the background, just a little bit of a flicker like someone watching TV. I don't have to actually have a TV going, maybe some inconsistent color being added to my scene from a TV. So all of these little effects are cool. We also have a strobe light, pretty neat. I can change the colors of the strobe. We have a white flickering lightning, which is awesome. Just throw this outside of a window or maybe next to your main character. It gives that ominous kind of glow, adding a little thunder sound effect, and you have a cool lightning effect. We also have a couple different modes like fire. So again, throw this behind your main character like they're sitting by a fire. One of my favorite ones after fire is candle. This is pretty realistic. Just kind of throw it off to the side of your shot and you just got a little bit of a flickering candle glow, which looks pretty cool in my opinion. And then our awesome red and blue cop lights here, or emergency vehicle lights. You know, those shots where somebody's sitting in the back of the car and you can see behind them the flickering red and blue emergency lights just kind of off to the corner of the scene. This adds a lot of depth to your scene and it adds a lot of context without actually needing those emergency vehicles in your scene. Just kind of throw this off to the side, just kind of have it running, let the light do all the work. And we have just added so much context and so much story to our scene just with the lighting and these cool effects modes. So let's go ahead and kill off these effects right now. And we can just go ahead and go back to our CCT mode, turn that down a little bit. And heck, we can just light the rest of this review with our little Lumecube light. Because again, what I want to stress is power, portability, and features in such a small, lightweight package that you can just slide in your camera backpack and take with you wherever you need to get the perfect shot. A great run and gun tool that will really add something to your storytelling, whether you're a photographer or videographer. Now, another feature that I want to mention that this does not exist in a lot of tube lights, we can go ahead and go into our CCT mode and scroll through, and we have a green and magenta adjustment. So this is really cool. So I can adjust this towards the green. Maybe I'm trying to make this match a fluorescent light, and then I can also go towards the magenta a little bit. Adds just a little bit of extra hue and kind of warmth to skin tones. And you can go back and forth and just make those adjustments to your scene to match the lighting that's already there or give a unique light to your scene. So we'll go ahead and we'll turn that back to 0. Another cool thing that you can do with this light is it has a USB charging port. So in addition to just charging your light, you can also use this as a power bank, plug in some other little things, and charge them from this light. And lastly, when it comes to this Lumecube Tube Light Mini, I just want to talk about the build quality. I love the magnets in this. I love the option to have this little anti-roll hexagonal pattern on both ends. It's awesome that we have 1/4-20 mounts on both ends. Additionally, this is weatherproof. So if it gets a little rain on it, no big deal. If it gets a little bit of dust on it, no big deal. It's an awesome, solid light. And when I mean solid, it is also drop resistant. I've bumped this a little bit. I've gotten some little scuffs on this light that I can just rub off. It is pretty kick-proof. So it's been bumped around, it's been dropped, it's fallen from a couple locations, but it's solid and it's withstood that. And I give Lumecube the credit. This is not just some random knockoff third-party company and cheapo light like you may see on Amazon. This is a solid light. It's built by a company that has a pretty great track record for building these lights. We all know the little baby Lumecube that was this indestructible little light, and now they are expanding their line to things like these tube lights. So thank you to Lumecube for sending this to me. This is a really cool little package. I would love to see something maybe even smaller. Maybe we get a 6-inch tube light, but there's a whole bunch of other options. I just think the 1-foot tube light, the 12-inch, is fantastic for run and gun photography or cinematography. So that is my review of the Lumecube light. If you'd like to pick one of these up, check out my link down in the description. And if you want to save 15%, use the code JT15 to get 15% off of any Lumecube light because I'm working on trying to become a Lumecube affiliate. So check that out. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and until next time, get out and go shoot.